Infidelity. It's one of the most complicated and, well, painful things we go through as humans. But what if we could just set aside the heartbreak for a minute and look at the pure data? Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to explore the anatomy of infidelity through some really surprising statistics and the psychological patterns that lock people into those classic love triangles. Let's dive in.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the psychology behind the love triangle. Then, we'll get into the raw numbers. Who's actually cheating? After that, we'll explore the emotional fallout and then dig into a really interesting question. What kind of betrayal hurts more? And stick around, because we're going to end with a twist in the data that I bet you won't see coming.
All right, first up, the love triangle trap. Have you ever wondered why, once someone is in one, it feels almost impossible to get out? Well, the answer might surprise you. It actually looks a lot like a very familiar and very destructive pattern. This quote it nails it, right? Getting in can be deceptively simple. It's often fueled by a rush of excitement or validation or something you're missing. But as you're about to see, getting out, well, that's a whole other story. It's like a maze of emotional and psychological traps.
The whole dynamic is surprisingly similar to an addiction. Think about it. It starts with this incredible thrill, this emotional high. But that high always fades. And what's left is this painful, stressful routine. And even when it's causing absolute misery to everyone, the cycle feels impossible to break. It's a trap.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You are doing important work.
Okay, so let's shift gears from the psychological model to the cold hard facts. What do the statistics actually say about who cheats and how often? I have a feeling some of these numbers are really going to surprise you. Let's just start with a really direct question. And this is for all long-term relationships. So marriages, non-registered partnerships, the whole shebang. So what do you think? Take a guess. What percentage of men do you think cheat?
Yeah, 74%. Let that sink in for a second. The data shows that nearly 3/4 of men in long-term relationships will be unfaithful at some point. It's a staggering figure, and it really sets a dramatic baseline for this whole conversation. Okay, so that's the number for men. Now for the same question, but about women. We've seen that incredibly high number for men, so how does the statistic for women in those same long-term relationships compare?
25%, 1 in 4. Now, that's still a really significant number for sure, but what a stark contrast to the number for men. Right off the bat, we're seeing this massive gender gap in the data.
And when you see it laid out like this visually, wow, you can really see just how wide that gap is. But here's the thing. The story gets a lot more nuanced when we narrow our focus down to just marriage. So, when we look only at official marriages, the numbers really shift. The rate for men actually drops down to 60%, but the rate for women climbs up to 40%. So the gap is still there, yeah? But it gets a whole lot smaller.
And this points to a super interesting kind of counterintuitive trend. After getting married, men seem to cheat less, while women seem to cheat more. So what's going on there? Honestly, psychologists have been debating this for decades. Some theories point to different expectations of marriage, while others think it has to do with how men and women react differently to the routine of a long-term commitment.
So we've looked at the numbers, but what happens after the cheating is discovered? That brings us to the next inevitable part of the story, the emotional fallout.
Now, you might think the fallout is immediate, right? A big fight, and it's over. But the data shows something else. While yes, about 19% of couples do split up within a few months, the vast majority of the breakups, a full 75% of the remaining couples, happen over the next 2 years. The damage often just slowly erodes the relationship over time.
But here's something that is absolutely crucial to understand. It's the universality of the pain. People might cheat for all sorts of different reasons, but for the person who is betrayed, that heartache, that shattered trust, it feels remarkably similar for both men and women.
Okay, but if the pain is universal, does that mean we all view the act of betrayal in the same way? Not at all. Let's dig into what men and women actually consider to be the bigger offense.
We're really talking about two different kinds of betrayal here. On one side, you've got physical infidelity, sleeping with someone else. And on the other, you've got emotional infidelity, falling in love with someone else. So which one cuts deeper?
When you ask men, the results are surprisingly close.
almost split right down the middle. A slight majority, 56%, say the physical act is worse. So it seems like there's a focus on physical faithfulness, but man, it is a close call. But for women, whoa, it is not even a contest. An overwhelming 73% believe that their partner falling in love with someone else is by far the greater betrayal. For them, it seems emotional loyalty is what matters most.
All right, so we've established that men and women define betrayal pretty differently, but our final section uncovers a twist that's even more surprising, and it all revolves around who the other person in the affair is.
Check this out, because this is where it gets really fascinating. If a man finds out his female partner is cheating with another woman, his reaction is often less severe. But for women, it's the total opposite. A man cheating with another woman is often seen as better than if he had cheated with another man.
So, why the huge difference? Well, a really compelling explanation comes from evolutionary psychology. For men, throughout history, a primary biological concern has always been paternity certainty. Making sure you're investing your resources in your own kids. A wife's affair with another man raises that question in a way her affair with a woman just doesn't.
And that brings us to our final kind of mind-bending piece of data. It's a fascinating paradox. Statistically, women are far more likely to be the ones to file for divorce. We're talking up to 80% of the time. And yet, it's a wife's infidelity, not a husband's, that more frequently and more directly leads to the end of a marriage.
So we're left with this massive question, aren't we? We know the pain of being cheated on feels pretty much the same for everybody. So why are our ideas about what truly counts as the ultimate betrayal, whether it's physical or emotional or something else, so deeply and fundamentally different? It's a question that really gets to the very heart of what we expect from each other in love and loyalty.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you want to overcome betrayal, break toxic cycles, take control of your relationship choices, read How to Deal with a Love Triangle. The link is below the video.